Is a 50-year mortgage better than property taxes? I suppose it depends on the way you want to look at this. I'm not a big fan of property taxes at all. I'm also not a big fan of 50-year mortgages. I don't think so. I notice that there's a bunch of folks that are it's being sold. This is particularly, once again, by these morons on the right, these mega accounts that are shell accounts, the $7,000 per tweet accounts, and that are pushing this idea that why is everybody defending property taxes? No, they're not defending property taxes. I'm not. I'd like to see property taxes abolished immediately, along with income taxes and inheritance taxes. Those need to be abolished like right now. But that's not what they're defending. What people are asking, they're asking the question I would ask. My first question is, okay, so if you abolish property taxes, are you going to appropriately shrink the government at the local level? Because it's basically assessed at the local level, usually at the county level. So is the county government, are they going to all start shrinking? Probably not. In fact, they're probably going to continue doing what they've always done. And so that means one of two things. The federal government's either going to print a bunch of money and have to give it to the counties, which means that if the federal government gives counties money, then the federal government basically owns the counties. It really doesn't matter if you run for any kind of elected office at the county level, because you're just going to be owned by the federal government, because, of course, they're the ones giving you your money because you're not getting it from the local people, right? We're speaking in terms of dollars, by the way. We're not even talking about real money. We're talking about like fake monopoly money, the dollar. Or you're either going to cause a bunch of inflation because you got rid of the property taxes, or you're going to increase taxes somewhere else. And in either situation, the people who are basically the poorest are going to get hit the hardest, because they're not really hit that hard with ridiculous luxury property taxes. I say this as a property owner myself, right? I mean, who's watched his property value apparently in 1 year go up 100%, or nearabouts anyway. Like, that's ridiculous. It's not true. It didn't happen, but that's what they keep. That's what the assessment is that I have to go fight. So the idea is that, like, I think that that's what people are doing. It's a bit more nuanced than just, oh, you're defending property. No, I'm not defending property taxes at all. In fact, I want to see income taxes. Like, I don't know how many times I have to say that. Like, I want to see all this stuff ended, but I also want to see the government shrink appropriately. And I somehow think that that's not the case. So between the two, between the so-called 50-year mortgage and property taxes, well, let's dissect it a little bit. First of all, ridiculously long mortgages are a bad idea. I would try and discourage anybody from getting them. 10, 15, 30-year max would be like, get as short a term as you can and pay it off as quickly as you can, just so that way you're not eating all that interest, and so that you can move on with your life, if at all possible. But here's the deal. A 50-year mortgage, you're agreeing to that. And if you take the total and you figure the difference in what you're paying over that 20-year span, it's way more than you would ever pay in property taxes. Right? And property taxes, you can fight property taxes. This is, by the way, why they don't want poor people owning property in the U.S. I don't know if you know that or not. I don't know if anybody out there, very few people watch any of these videos I do all the way through. It's like 0.05% now. It's really not very many folks. I'm happy to have you with me, but the reality is that I know that there's no widespread movement of anything that I'm trying to explain here. And so when you look at the numbers, you're agreeing to one and you can't get out of it. On the other side, you can fight it. And if you had a bunch of people who owned property, let's say you had a whole bunch of plebs, all your individual pleb people out here, and they actually owned, the country that they live in, the country in which they've been told is theirs their entire lives. Let's say that they owned all of that themselves. Well, then they'd have an opinion on property taxes, wouldn't they? In fact, they not only have an opinion on property taxes, they would probably be screaming, hey, this is ridiculous. Why are you assessing all these properties at like these ridiculous numbers that it's not worth that? There was a story of this young lady. I think she actually follows my account. She was talking about how her and her husband built a property they bought like a couple of acres, and they built a house, and the total all in was like $200,000. That included, I want to say it was something like that included the property, if I remember right. It wasn't a very expensive piece of property, which is fine. And they built this house. And of course, if you've ever built a house before, I'm in the middle of that myself. All of your money, the vast majority of your money goes to infrastructure for that house. Your well, your septic, your electric, and so on. Like the the foundation. Like that's where a lion's share of a lot of your money goes. So even if the house burned to the ground, it wouldn't cost that much to replace it. But then I guess their county had said, yeah, this is worth $650,000 now, and taxed them on that. Yeah, that's ridiculous. That's stupid. Imagine if that were happening to, say, not just millions of people and millions of property owners. What if that were happening to hundreds of millions of property owners? Well, now you have a different, you have people that vote differently, don't you? This is why these $7,000 shill accounts, like that's who they are, dude. They're shills. They're just designed to get you guys arguing about stupid culture war crap instead of watching the money. Always watch the money. Always watch the fucking money. Always watch the fucking money. God damn it. Always watch the fucking money. And watch what happens. You will see that the money is always the one, it's always going from your pocket to theirs, and it never fucking changes. I'm trying to be nicer.